What's better than 2 underwear machetes?
Okay, so the way I do cold water exposure is I basically put a rain tub outside into the open, into the elements, and I let whatever external temperature there is decide the temperature of the water, and that is going to be my cold plunge first thing in the morning just to wake me up. But I'm living in Belgium, so that means that sometimes it's getting freezing temperatures, but not a lot, and we finally got to have freezing temperatures during night and day, which meant that I got to have ice baths. So here I am after 2 weeks of ice baths. I'm an expert and I can tell you what the difference is between cold water exposure and ice baths. And I feel like the difference is very interesting. So before we dive into that, let's first talk about why I do cold water exposure. Now, the first thing is because I do jiu-jitsu, it's very taxing on the body. I want something anti-inflammatory, so that's why I do cold water exposure. Note that I don't do cold water exposure after my weight training sessions, the day after that, because I don't want that influencing my hypertrophy, but that's something for an whole other video. I also want to sleep better, so I want to have my cortisol spiked in the morning, so that's why I have cold water exposure as well. And then I just want to have the mental discipline of doing something uncomfortable that I really don't want, and that's cold water exposure first thing in the morning. So cold water and ice baths, where does the line lie? It's not whether or not there's ice, but basically I would say around 6 degrees Celsius. Everything below is ice baths, everything above is cold water exposure. So cold water exposure, if you get into the cold water, what I feel is that my whole body is cooling off. Like immediately, like everything just starts to be chilly, and then once you finally get your breath going, you will notice that everything starts to warm up again, even your extremities. So everything gets like semi-comfortable. Once you get out, I feel like everything gets cold again, and it stays cold for about an hour to 2 hours. Ice baths, on the other hand, have a completely different feeling. First and foremost, the way I do it, if I'm doing ice baths, that means that it's freezing outside. So there I am in my underwear, or if I'm not filming, naked, trying to break the ice of the tub to get into that tub. So you're already getting cold because you're in the freezing temperature, but on the other hand, you're getting frustrated, so you warm up again. And yeah, then you still have to begin and start to get into the water. Now, if you get into the water, you're going to go feet first. What I felt is that the blood restricted immediately of my feet and my lower extremities. And then once I get in, strangely enough, my body does not feel as cold, but my arms are going to freeze up just like my legs do. And then I go into my cycle of breathing slowly, trying to enjoy, trying to relax, and still my arms and legs are freezing, but my body is surprisingly very warm. Once I get inside, what I feel is like a jolt of energy rushing through my arms and my legs, the blood flow, circulation going up, and that gives me a very warm feeling in my extremimies. Now, the heating up time of my body is increased dramatically by doing ice baths, so I feel that gives me that benefit that I was also looking for, not having cold hand or feet during the winter. Well, for that, ice baths are very good because I feel that it really wakes you up and it really warms you up as well, whereas cold water exposure actually cools you off. That was a very surprising finding for me. So yeah, those are the main differences, like basically how it feels and how you interpret it. Now, one thing with the ice baths, the first thing that I went into the ice bath, I was really scared because I didn't know what was going on. Also, I knew I was going to be alone. I didn't know how my body was going to react and if I were to go in shock, but luckily for me, I had that cold water exposure and yada yada yada, I was fine, okay? But those are basically the main differences. Now, as it comes to preferences, I prefer ice baths because that's like more effective, it gives you that boost. But because I can't choose, I'm okay with cold water exposure as well. Now, I wanted to make this video because most of the time you see cold showers versus ice baths, and I feel like those are like two ends of the spectrum, and I feel like people forget that there's a thing in the middle called cold water exposure. Like, just get a bath that's filled with water that's going to be cold and just get into that. It's more cost effective than ice baths, and if it happens to get colder and your water freezes, that's okay.
All right, so let's answer the million-dollar question. Are we still going to get the same amount of benefits with cold water exposure and with ice baths? Now, for the discipline part and getting your morning started, that's going to be 100% the same. But as it comes to anti-inflammatory response, cortisol spike, testosterone boost, that is probably going to be a lot less with the cold water exposure compared to the ice baths. Now keep in mind, I do my ice baths around a minute and a half, and I do my cold water exposure around 2 minutes and a half. Now the longer time is going to probably counteract the intensity a little bit, but we're going to be better off with ice baths. I'm happy to take whatever I can get to make myself stronger. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. I hope you got something out of it. Let me know in the comments down below what you are doing to get your body chilled, to get your body stronger, and I guess I'll be seeing you all in the next video.